A quick video today on rats. Now, rats can certainly be cute, but I have no doubts that rats and cars do not mix. With all the pandemic working from home stuff, our cars are sitting in the driveway unused most of the time, and this seems to be a personal invitation for rats to move in. Recently, my wife started her car for the first time in several days, and the dash positively lit up with lights. She was able to drive it, but clearly something bad had happened. I popped open the hood and started to look around. On the plus side, rats are not particularly neat, so they leave clues everywhere. On the downside, they don't just stick to one place, and some of those places are just impossibly tight. Over the course of a week, I eventually found 5 different areas of damage on her car. I didn't document the process of fixing each of these issues since I was in a hurry to get the car running, but I did want to point out a couple of things from this experience. Now, certainly one solution is to go and have this fixed at a shop, and they very well might purchase and install new wiring harnesses. I have to believe that this would be really expensive, not just due to the cost of the harnesses, but also the labor to remove and install them. Quite often the wiring harnesses are ganged together into bundles, and getting access to these can require moving lots of stuff out of the way. I chose to fix the wires in place, soldering in replacement wires of similar gauge and then wrapping them with heat shrink tubing. It's likely not as good a solution as a new wiring harness, but by doing it myself, it was free. If I take this damage as an example, I was able to remove this connector by simply releasing its tab, and this allowed me to take the connector over to the bench, apply some solder paste to the little bit of remaining copper, and solder on new wires. Then before I take the connector with the new wires back over to the car, I slip on some heat shrink tubing onto the wires. Then back over at the car, I stripped a bit of insulation off of the wire sticking out of the wiring harness, and then I soldered on those wires onto the wires I'd added to the connector. Then it's just a matter of slipping the heat shrink tubing over the soldered connections and applying some heat from a heat gun or a hair dryer. Other than wires, the rat also ate through the windshield wiper fluid hose. The difficulty here was locating the hose. The wiper fluid would just dribble out under the car when I hit the button, and I couldn't locate where the cut in the hose was. Eventually I found a diagram that showed it was routed above the wheel, so I was able to pull off the trim and then kind of feel around in it for it there and found it. After that, I just used a drip irrigation barb fitting to patch in some new hose. Here's another example of 4 wires that the rat ate. These came from a pressure switch for the air conditioning. Again, I was able to remove the connector side, but the other side for this one was really difficult to get to. I just had to stick the soldering iron through a small opening and then hold the connector wires just at the right angle to try and line up the wires and then get the soldering done. So you might be wondering what I'm going to do to try and keep the rats from eating the wires in our cars. So one thing is, obviously we're trying to drive them more, or at least move them around. I open the hood at least once every day or two, if not drive them around. So I think that's one good approach. The other is, in this photo here, you might have noticed this orange substance, and that's actually cayenne pepper. So I really don't know if this will be effective, but rumor has it that rats hate cayenne pepper. So I sprinkled this around in some of the areas where the rats have nested, and I'm hoping that it will deter them in the future. Anyway, I hope this helps somebody out there. Take care.